Welcome to Gray Mason Gaming plays Solaris. I'm mixing it up a bit with a 10-player game because I joined one that I've never played with a setting called Rotating Galaxy. It's a Heli 5 galaxy, and I wanted to see basically there's a central star, and it's a circular galaxy formation, and every tick the galaxy rotates just a little bit. And what's interesting is the closer you are to the center, the faster things tick or spin. And so very quickly things start to get out of control. And a lot of the standard setup that you would do with a star, with a galaxy around logistics, you can't do or get a lot more complicated. It really makes the galaxy and the game feel a lot more alive because not only are you battling the other players and doing diplomacy with the players, I actually feel like it increases the diplomacy required because your stars are going to get much more intermingled with the enemies. So let's talk about this specific game. And you can see the start is a relatively standard start to a game where people are just expanding to unoccupied stars. And in this game, I immediately spoke with both my neighbors, CIK and Macron, and said, let's be friendly, let's not fight each other, and see where that goes. There's usually somebody who turns into an AI or whatever, and you can see on this one Norm Charlton and ended up going AFK, and then Doe and Dengar joined forces and were attacking CIK. Dominion or Dami Man, I always call him Dominion. I don't know why, but Dami was it Dami Man? Yeah, Dami Man. Got off to a huge lead and a great start. And so I basically very tightly worked with CIK on pushing out west and ignoring my counterclockwise neighbors in Macron, Sasimi, R3, or Red, and pushed really hard to get into the center. After some resistance and even just a little bit, Doe ended up leaving, and we were able to eat him. And you could see also Orange, the Iso Nesson, got eaten by Doppy Man. And so what we got into really quickly was I have friendly relations with everyone counterclockwise with me. Then Dami Man and Dengar joined forces, and it turned into a bit of a 2v2 where they vastly outgunned us. The only saving grace was Macron and Susimi were completely passive and willing to share tech. And because tech would only be able to be shared with people with vision, they couldn't work with my enemies. They only could share tech with me. They built up a decent economy, but like Susimi was on, 13 stars the whole game. But even at this point, it was really a 2v2 with tech support from passive empires. And what I'm not showing here, but you'll get a sense is, again, this game was all about logistics. And I was able to capture the central stars. You can see the center of the galaxy, CIK and I, and that gave us a little bit more of a base, so our ships didn't get as spread out as they would have typically. You can see Dami Man's got that little, like a little slice that's getting pushed out from the rest. Dengar's got a couple stars that are starting to float into our area, and that makes it much harder for them to reinforce. Now, there were a lot of tactical battles and tactical fights, but at this view, at the macro view, that's really not what I'm calling out, what I'm showing. I really just wanted to show you how pretty it was and how much I would love to see something like this type of a dynamic in a larger game, because it really creates a lot of interesting situations. I had to have a leap of faith with Macron and Susimi and Red, that they were going to not attack me because we had such an overwhelming enemy in Dami Man and Dengar. Um, but here's where, in my opinion, they went wrong. Dami Man, I think at one point was at 51 stars, and you only need 100 to win, so he was 50% of the win condition. And between him and Dengar, who was probably about 30 stars, they were combined really close to owning half the galaxy at one point. But they didn't build enough carriers, and so as things got stretched out, their reinforcements weren't getting to the front line. They had at one point about here about 1,000 more ships. I think I had like about 2,200 ships, and he had 3,200 ships, but he wasn't getting those to the front line. In part, he had to defend against Red. But Red wasn't attacking at this point. Everyone was passive except the four of us, and but you can see now how even like Macron's initial stars in the middle are getting spun into the center. He has no capacity, no ability to defend those, and so I think in a rotating galaxy, getting to the center really seemed to be helpful because it allows you to reinforce your stars a little bit better. But it was getting desperate about this point in the game where we were losing a little bit of ground. You see Dami Man made a little push into our territory, and so we basically raised the flag and said, everybody, if we don't work together more, we're going to die. Now, this entire game, Susimi and Macron, I don't think they ever fought. Susimi ended up donating about 1,000 ships to Red, which in many regards I think was the game changer. Like, that won us the game. Spoiler alert, we win the game. But they never actually fought. I think he built 3 or 4 financial analysts, like used blue 40 tokens on that. And Macron, at one point they were bringing ships up to help defend, but they never actually, like literally never attacked. He lost his forward stars that got kind of sucked into the void. You can see that kind of disappearing and reappearing. But those two never really fought. It was CIK, myself, against Dengar Dominion, Dami Man, and then Red, who, with the support of Susimi's donated ships, was able to push back Dami Man, who was feeling the pressure. He played a great game. Actually, this was a really fun game, and I have a ton of respect for both Dami Man and Dengar after this, as well as CIK. So ultimately what happened and broke open the game, I think, were 2 things. It was all about logistics and getting ships to the front line. There are no wormholes here. So the first was the 1,000 ships that Susimi ended up giving to Red. And the other was there were several binaries on the border between Dengar and myself that we kept having to fight over. And I finally got a big group to the front line, a big group of ships, and caught Dengar sleeping or whatever. So I had 2 or 3 hours where on a warp gate with a raider, I was able to get about 700 ships on his 13 ship, 13 industry star, and really controlled a big chunk of Dengar's territory at that point in time. So you can see that now on the screen in the center. And once I controlled that, I basically had to put a war machine on it, and it was spitting out a ton of ships. It couldn't be taken back over without significant loss, and that gave us the foothold to clear out the area and break the spirit of the Dengar Dami Man team, who never was able to get anyone else to flip or join them on their side. I just don't think Macron or Susimi had any real interest in doing that, and they were happy to just be alive till the end, and that's great. So really fun game. Hopefully, the this view of this rotating galaxy looks interesting. I would love to see more support for it. I'll throw up some of the stats at the end where you can see the star count, the economy, industry, and science. We were also, by the way behind Dami Man in weapons the whole game. He was way ahead in science. But you can see some of the stats from Intel. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the game. It was super fun. I enjoyed it. Lots of respect for everybody that played it. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.